Welcome to my podcast number 28. And it's a podcast about the art of listening, but it's also about the art of playing. And of course, the piano is central in this podcast. But today, I wanted to speak about something which I think is so important. It's about the education of young people and about the musical education. How to get really people on the right track. And there's one or two composers who have written pieces which are exceptionally, in fact, brilliant for doing this. One, of course, is Heller. The name of Heller is known, I'm sure, to every piano student. And not only is he known, he's often loved by students because the pieces are beautiful and wonderful to play. But all these praising of this musician, there's nothing in comparison to the brilliance of his pieces. And this piece I want to talk about today is one of those really brilliant pieces. It's the second study, Opus 45, and it's called The Avalanche. So you can really use your imagination, imagining what would an avalanche be in music. Okay, but still, how are we going to do this? Well, this piece is, I think, one of the genius pieces in education. And I'll explain today why. And it might be interesting for people who are actually playing it to actually try out some of the things that I suggest. And I must say, this podcast has been inspired by an incredible pianist called Michael Haberman. He wrote asking to discuss this piece. And I think that's a very grand idea, really wonderful that he did this. So talking about it, let's first of all play it. Let me give you an idea. I have not been studying it myself, but I've just given an idea of how I think you should be looking at it. Something like that. Just an idea of how you can play it. I think what we've got to do with this, for instance, when playing it, I think very important to realize what Heller has done. Heller has written something which I think is brilliant for learning technique. Not only is it musically beautiful, but the technique in it is really marvelous. For instance, when doing this, those movements, I think, come out of the music. For instance, your hand, giving, your finger, the actual sound, it comes out of your hand. It's not only out in your head, but in your hands also. The way you use your hands is dreadfully important in this piece. So in speed, you see? And those chords are not so much down as up. They're not that sort of thing. They're more that sort of thing. And then you get this. So you get the actual sound coming onto that E, that's that note, E, and it goes something a little bit lighter. It's very interesting also to look at his pedaling. That's really quite fascinating because it's very precise. When you look at it, you see it's done there, here pedal, and then here. Got the idea? So it's really very important. I think if you're playing with pedal too much and you get this, no way, not right. I think it makes it lighter when you play it without pedal. You need that lightness. It's got to be sparkling and light. And what is the question? Okay, the avalanche I think happens a little bit later. I think that happens here. That here. I think that's in that area. And here. I think there. I think that's where it's actually happening. But of course, those last passages, there's a crescendo. And there's a... I think that's what it is. But I think we've got to get all these things together. Another thing I think which goes wrong in performances of this piece is this passage here. And here you have this with a rest, short chord, which is out of the keys, not in the keys, but out of the keys. Very relaxed, just out of the keys. And then you get these notes here, which are dreadfully important, portato. And pedal here. And I think we've got to hear that. Not pedaling through the, not this. But more this. You know, there was once, Martha Argerich was asked her idea about playing, about performing. And she said, well, I think we actually play upwards. Interesting. Upwards? I thought the keys go, your fingers go down. Yes, but they feel upwards. We have this, and that's what you get out of this study. For instance, when, as I said in the beginning, when you're playing this, you feel that movement, not that I'll play it wrongly, look. I play it now very much in the keys. I think it's going to be... And then here. Upwards. Got the idea? So these things are in something I think which has been absolutely a part of this piece, thought out by Heller. Incredible. And I think it's basically the background to playing Chopin. I think Chopin is often played too heavily. I think it's got to be elegant and really very precise, elegant and not at all played with the luscious sentimentality that we often hear. And not only sentimentality, but too strong. And don't forget, the instruments at the time of Chopin, the Era and the Pleyel, they didn't really have such a huge volume. And Chopin was often speaking about the barking dog. He didn't like that. Any note that was a little bit too strong, he was annoyed with that. And he called it the barking dog. You've got a lot of barking dogs in your playing. Well, I think that's something we can learn out of this piece. Just all these things. And what about when playing these chords here? These chords are without pedal. And near pedal. So we get... That's the idea. And then later, that even goes further. All without pedal. Here without without pedal, no pedal, and then very interesting, here no pedal, and then here, pedal, pedal. You got the idea? So those things I think are dreadfully important. This is the way I would look at this piece. So also when playing it, try to get that movement in the arms. The arms and not it's quite a different way of looking at it. And I think this is the way that he meant. I think this is the way that Heller wanted it to be played. And if you look at it and you see this in the score, mezzo piano, it's not really that loud. It's not that loud. And of course, we've got to think about the instruments of his time. They were not really dynamically very strong instruments. So we've got to really think about what were these people hearing? What was he busy with? What was the composer really hearing? And I think that when you realize there's only one passage in the whole piece, which is maybe a little bit louder than the rest, and that is only forte, it's not really anything. I mean, there's just this pedal, and that's where the pedal comes. And here, it's very important, I think, to follow those things. The pedaling, in my opinion, is dreadfully important in this piece. Okay, well, I hope I've given some idea. It's a lovely piece. It is really a marvellous piece for every student. And I really hope people will start playing more Heller. And thank you, Michael Havermann.